All right. Hopefully this is working and everybody can see me. My name is Derek Thompson. I'm the principal of HBB, and I just want to welcome everybody tonight who has tuned in and is joining us for our orientation for our incoming first graders. This is a strange way to have to do this. Would have certainly preferred to be able to do this face to face with everybody, but we're trying to make the best of a difficult situation and give you the opportunity to get to know the school a little bit, be able to tell you a little bit about what we have going on to offer the kids, and just introduce you to the school and some of the staff. I want to start tonight by just letting everyone know that this orientation is really just going to focus on what will be the eventual return. I know there's a lot of questions about what things may or may not look like when we come back, and unfortunately, we just don't know the answers to a lot of questions. So I do anticipating having some similar events like this throughout the summer as we learn more information about what school may look like, if it looks different at all. But we know eventually we're going to be coming back. So the purpose of tonight's orientation is to get you ready for that day. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. As we get started, some of these folks are with us tonight, and they're going to have an opportunity to talk a little bit, but I just want to go through and introduce the first grade team. Next year, we have 6 first grade teachers. The classroom teachers are Mrs. Lemieux, Mrs. Dyer, Mrs. Trottier, Mrs. Savage, Mrs. Bartlett, and Mrs. Wynock. We also have Mrs. Stebbins and Mrs. Adams. Mrs. Adams is our special ed teacher for first grade, and she works in a number of classrooms, and Mrs. Stebbins also is in a number of the classrooms. So these are all the different adults that your kids are going to see when they start with us at HBB. We also have Mrs. Lakey, who is our literacy coach. She is in and out of all the rooms working with teachers. She also works with kids that may need a little bit of support reading as well. Mrs. Perkins is our school nurse. Mrs. Madigan is our reading specialist. So she will spend a lot of time working with teachers and kids that might be struggling in different ways with reading. Mrs. Doak is our adjustment counselor. A lot of your kids are familiar with Mrs. Doak. She spent 1 day a week over at MEC last year. Mrs. McDonald, also, she works very closely with Mrs. Doak, runs a lot of support groups for our kids. She's our school psychologist. She does all of our testing when we suspect there might be some underlying struggles for kids academically. So she's a great resource. She works with a lot of different groups of kids. Mrs. Manila and Mrs. Bergeron are both in our TLC program, which supports kids with significant needs. And Megan Quirk, who is probably familiar to a lot of you, is our Family Resource Center staff member. We have a number of new faces in the building. I'm sure you've heard about this. You watched Mr. Lynch's announcement. Mr. Gobeil, I'm very happy for him. As much as I'm going to miss him, has become the principal over at MEC. So joining us next year is Mr. Thomas as the assistant principal. Excited to have him on board. Mrs. Redlawn is going to be our SPED coordinator for grades K to 3, which is a little bit of a different setup than we've had in the past. Ms. Redlawn worked over at Mary Kay Good before, overseeing the SPED department down there. So she's going to be splitting duties with Dr. Mansfield, who will oversee the upper grades. Mrs. Iman, who was the full year secretary up at Nichols Middle School, is coming down. She's going to be our full year secretary. We're excited to have her. And Mrs. Christmas, who was a secretary over at Mary Kay Good, is going to be one of our main office secretaries as well. So really, you'll see a lot of both of our secretaries as you come into the building to pick up your kids and things of that nature. This is our team of special subject teachers. We have Mr. Dawson, one of our music teachers, Ms. McGovern, who is our other music teacher. They both new to us this year, and they were great additions to our staff. Mr. Dawson is the one who set up all the music out front for our pickup and drop off of student belongings that we've been doing all week. Mrs. Donovan is our art teacher. Mr. Whitelaw is one of our PE teachers, and we're excited about adding Mr. Phoenix. Mr. Phoenix was the assistant principal at Mary Kay Good. He is joining us. He's going back into the PE department, so he is going to be one of our PE teachers next year. And Mrs. Crawford has been at HBB for a long time. She was a 4th grade teacher when I started. She moved over. She teaches computers to our kids. So we do have a lot of offerings for our kids. The specials that we mentioned before, every day, 45 minutes, kids go out to one of those specials. Kids participate in PE twice over a 6-day cycle. They have art once, they have music twice, and they have computers once. We also have champions before and after school care, which is similar to what they had at MEC. And we also run a lot of after school programs and enrichment clubs and things of that nature. So we have a lot of offerings for our kids at HBB. For this next slide, I want to ask a couple of our staff members to join us. Erin Doak, our school adjustment counselor, and Emily Savage are going to help me talk about this slide a little bit. Emily's one of our first grade teachers. At HBB, we have what's called positive behavioral expectations. So a little bit different than a traditional school. We do not have a list of punitive rules and consequences when kids break those rules. It doesn't mean that we don't have consequences or that we don't have rules. But the way that we like to talk about things is that we have positive expectations for our kids that we believe all of our kids can reach. Our positive expectations are be safe, be respectful, be responsible, be caring, be healthy, and try your hardest. We talk a lot about these. I announce them every day. We have a character word of the week that we talk a lot about. And, you know, the underlying principle is that we believe all of our kids can be successful. They can all meet these positive expectations. And it's just, you know, kids make mistakes. And when they make mistakes, we help them learn from it and we fix it. That's more the traditional consequence, I guess. But we don't want our kids feeling bad about mistakes. We want our kids to recognize that mistakes happen. Everybody makes them. We can learn from them, and we need to fix them. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Doak to talk a little bit about our formal curriculum that we use and some of the steps that we take to teach our kids how to meet these positive expectations. We do a lot to reward our kids when we catch them doing things right. Mrs. Savage can talk about our Husky Haven tickets and a couple things like that. But Mrs. Doak, if you could just tell everyone a little bit about what we do to formally teach our kids.
Absolutely. So we use a curriculum called social thinking. It was created for children and adults who have social learning deficits, but it's actually a curriculum that many public schools have embraced school-wide, and Brooklyn is one of them. It's a really flexible approach to getting kids to thinking about how their behaviors make people have thoughts and feelings, and how we need to adjust our behavior based on what's going on around us and where we are. A quick example of that is, you know, how we behave and act in the library is going to be very different than how we behave in the cafeteria or out at recess. And kids need to kind of learn what those behavioral expectations are. Like we said, we don't really have rules, but we have more of expectations. And those, if you're following what's expected, then people are going to feel good about you, and it's going to help you build relationships. Being over at MEC this past year, we got to do some classroom lessons about some of the social thinking. One particular one is whole body listening. So your kids will probably be familiar with that term coming in, which is great. So along with the social thinking piece, we also don't want to ignore the emotions that kids have. So we do spend time on a curriculum that's part of social thinking, which is the zones of regulation. It helps kids recognize their feelings, and then we teach them ways to self-regulate their emotions and their behaviors so that they can continue to build relationships in the classroom, at recess, in the cafeteria. All of the students at MEC had several classroom lessons on the zones of regulation, I'm happy to say. So I'm hoping that if you have an opportunity and you ask your student, hey, what zone are you in? They'll be able to tell you or explain to you what the zones are. So I encourage you to try that, because it's just good for them to be self-aware. We do use social thinking throughout the whole school. It helps build, you know, healthy relationships. It helps with conflict resolution. We teach it everywhere. We have monthly community meetings where we spend time talking to the grade about the different concepts of social thinking. Specifically in the classroom, I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Savage, because she can speak a little bit more directly about how it's incorporated in the classroom.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily Savage. I'm one of the first grade teachers. And we start off the year in the classroom really front loading a lot of the different social thinking concepts with the students. We primarily introduce them through some awesome read alouds that we have. And in these books that we read, they give different scenarios of different social situations that help teach the kids about different interactions that they can relate to in their everyday life. Some of the topics, as Ms. Doak was mentioning, are whole body listening, following the group plan, thinking with your eyes. These are just a few that you'll become familiar with and your kiddos will become familiar with this next year if they haven't already talked about it over at the MEC. And then we'll follow up with these different concepts through lessons as we find fit, based on the group of kids and where we find the need in our classroom. And then also through the grade level community meetings that occur 1 to 2 times a month. As Ms. Doak was saying, the language that they learn is consistent school-wide, which is awesome. And it's really helpful when kids are in other places outside the classroom, like the cafeteria or the playground or at specials, and then when they move on to upper grades as well. We really use a lot of positive reinforcement at HBB. Students are rewarded with tickets for their positive behavior from their classroom teacher, from other classroom teachers, specialists, administrators, and they're able to use them at our school store, the Husky Haven. The kids get really excited to use the tickets for prizes. It's really motivational. And another thing that we do at school that's really awesome is we have positive office referrals. Teachers can write up a slip and send it to the office when a student's doing an exceptional job with their behavior. It can be the student's classroom teacher or other teachers. And the slip, it gets read over the announcements in the morning so the whole school can hear. And then the student gets to go down to the office and get a special keychain. They even get their picture taken. And Mr. Thompson includes it in the weekly email blast for all of the HBB families to see. So it's another way to get the kids really excited and really motivate them. So we really look forward to working with your children and catching them up to speed with all of the social thinking norms to set them up for a successful future at HBB.
That's great. Thank you, Emily. And just to close out this slide and this whole piece about positive behavioral expectations, we just really want to catch the kids doing what we want them to do, instead of focusing our energies on catching them when they're not doing things or doing things they're not supposed to do. We want to focus on them doing the right thing and promoting that and making them feel good about it. Doesn't mean we don't hold kids accountable. We do run a pretty tight ship at HBB. But again, it's about these positive behavioral expectations. You're going to hear them a lot. Be safe, be respectful, be responsible, be caring, be healthy, and try hardest. And we hopefully over time will continue to communicate out information in ways that you can use similar language at home. I have 3 kids at home myself. I've used a lot of this language with my own kids. Sometimes it sounds and can feel corny, but the programs that we're using are really effective. It resonates with kids. They understand it. And the more you can follow through at home with some of the language, I think the easier all of our jobs become. So for our next slide, we're going to talk about communication. I'm going to ask Mrs. Leslie Lemieux to join me for this particular slide. And I'm going to let Leslie talk mostly about it. But the one piece I did want to say is I think communication is and has been the key to our success at HBB. The thing I mainly wanted to say to parents is I want to open up the lines of communication. If you have a question or a concern, just reach out, please. Email me, call the classroom teacher. If there's an issue and we don't know about it, there's nothing that we can do. There's nothing that drives me nuts more than, and we don't have a lot of this, is people taking to Facebook to solve problems without at least reaching out to us first. I'm certainly not telling people not to post on Facebook. I understand that's the way things are. But we want to know about things. If there's something you're concerned about, we want to know about it. We're not perfect. The only promise I'll ever make is that we will listen to what your concerns are and we'll be responsive to those. Before I did turn it over to Leslie, I just want to let people know what they can expect in terms of communication from me I send out the Berkland's Best email every Friday, so there's a lot of information in that. And then I also post that on Facebook and Twitter. And we post other things on Facebook and Twitter as well. And our website is also a great place to go. And really, under Dr. Gates and Sean Siciliano, they've done a really nice job updating our website, and we've included more and more information over the years on there. So it's a really great place to go to find things. But if you can't find anything, don't hesitate to reach out. So Mrs. Lemieux, if you don't mind, I'll turn it over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Thompson. Hello, everyone. My name is Leslie Lemieux, and like Mr. Thompson said, I'm one of the classroom teachers. So, Mr. Thompson, you really hit it on the head there. There are so many ways that in lines of communication, whether it's the website, Twitter, your email, your weekly blog. We send home paper newsletters each week that have information from Mr. Thompson and our soon-to-be new assistant principal, and as well as classroom information. And that two-way communication is absolutely integral to your child's success at the Berkland School. We want to know if there's something that you think that you're like, we want to know, because we have the shared goal of the success of your child. And, we want to engage in a two-way conversation and build that relationship with the families just as much as we want to do that with your children. One of the ways that we all communicate with families is we use apps. There's two of them specifically. One is called Classroom Dojo. The other is called Remind. I think it's officially Remind 101. They are two different platforms. They're like the same but different, and they function in a very similar way as other social media platforms, where there's a class feed, you can share pictures, there's private messaging, but we all use these apps as a way to share that quick, like, hey, no homework tonight, or don't forget about this celebration tomorrow, or, this is coming up next week, look for it in your child's backpack, or, look at this awesome thing that we've been doing in school today. Or, we had our first fire drill, your kids did a great job, and we'll share language and things to reinforce with your child at home. And we've found that it really helps give a talking point to you and your child, which then opens up communication with you and your child when they get home from school. So many parents, my own child, how was your day today, buddy? It was good, or it was fine. What'd you do? Nothing. And this really helps give you information, even if it's one little picture, one little snippet, to be able to ask some more leading questions and to open up that dialogue with your child, which has been, we've gotten really great feedback from families in the past few years. So which platform you're using will depend on the teacher your child has, and you'll get more information as we get closer to the opening of school. Yeah, I think that covers communication. One other thing, I think you wanted me to touch upon homework, correct, Mr. Thompson?
Yeah, just briefly, if you don't mind.
Sure. So homework is another really important part to your child's education. And we have an expectation of 10 minutes a night, plus we encourage nightly reading. The main purpose of homework is to help instill that sense of responsibility and that time and space for homework at home. So as they progress up the grades, it's just kind of something that they do. And so we start right in first grade with building that ownership and that responsibility for homework. What it looks like is going to be, of course, it might be different from class to class. It's really going to be based on what the teacher feels the class needs at that time. So it might look different, but the time is going to be the same, 10 minutes, across the board, whether they're working on spelling words or math or, whatever it may be. It will be a 10-minute expectation. And like I said, in addition to the encouraged nightly reading. And more details and information will be shared again as we get that rolling. Generally speaking, around the end of September is generally when we kind of get that homework up and running.
And so just to let parents know that expectation increases in the grade by about 10 minutes every year. So, and again, at the early stages, it's really about personal responsibility, bringing homework home, bringing it back. I also just want to highlight for everybody watching, because I know people are wondering, Mrs. Lemieux is in her car because it's the only quiet place she could find. Away
It's
from her
true.
which I think really with this slide highlights, I'm hiding in my bedroom right now. My family just got home and I have 3 kids as well. And when people ask me how many kids I have, I always joke and say I have 550 of them. I think, and I know this is shared by all the staff at HBB, we take the responsibility of your kids coming to school very seriously. And every day I think about every single one of our kids and every decision we make about, how would I want my own kids treated? How would I want things to be for them? How do I expect it as a parent? So I do, and I know our staff understand things on both ends. And this whole situation is a good example and highlight of that. We're all at home with our own kids, trying to teach them and to teach kids remotely as well. So just when it comes to communication, I just want you to know that, we see ourselves in the same boat, on the same team. We need to work together. So that's why we ask for you to just reach out. And I think that partnership between home and school is something I'm proud we've established with families over the years. And we're looking forward to connecting with each of you. That's why I don't like doing this remotely, because it's much better to be able to meet face to face and form those initial partnerships. So thank you, Mrs. Lemieux, on that one.
Thank you.
Next slide, I'm going to invite Mrs. Jenna Wynock, Mrs. Jillian Lakey, and Mrs. Toby Adams. We're going to talk a little bit about differentiated instruction. That can be, that's a big term that we throw around in education here, but basically what that means is and the piece I know our teachers are going to talk about is that we have an instructional model here that really centers on a couple things. One is collaboration amongst teachers, and that I have challenged our teaching staff over the years to think about we own all of our kids, not just the 20 some odd kids that you have in your room, but all the first graders are owned by all the first grade teachers, and all the kids in the building are owned by every single teacher in the building. And I've been very proud about how people have stepped up with that. And also just on a big picture that I think it's really important. I hate when I hear kids say they're not good at math or I'm not a good reader. Everybody's at a different place. Everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Our instructional model is about meeting kids where they're at and making sure that they feel capable and able wherever they are, and that's okay. And I think we have a really skilled teaching staff, and I think this is a good point for me to turn it over to Mrs. Wynock, who's going to talk about this a little bit more.
Hi everyone, I'm Jenna Wynock. I'm a first grade teacher at HBB. So as Mr. Thompson said, we meet every student where they're at. And this just means that we take the time to learn about our students and how we can best support them. And we do this by using various assessments in the beginning of the year and throughout the year to understand and learn about our students' learner behaviors across all subject areas, their strengths, areas that may need additional support, and their personal interests. It's important to know the whole child. We use all of that to then plan our instruction accordingly. And we do this by implementing differentiated instruction. And we do this through a variety of ways. One of the ways that we do that is through small flexible grouping across all subject areas. We offer additional support in and out of the classroom. We have variations in lessons and activities, all of which are tailored to each and every student to ensure that they are getting what they need and that they feel and can and will be successful with us. And it's important to note that this is HBB's normal model of instruction, but of course it's incredibly important now more than ever with everything that we have going on. And this model has been proven to be successful year after year. And I feel that we are all confident knowing that this will continue to be successful for all of our future incoming students, your kiddos, and especially after they return from the COVID closures. And lastly, it's important to note too that we've been in contact with the kindergarten teachers, and we've talked to them a lot about which lessons were not covered in the classroom due to the COVID closures. And so we plan for those to now be our first lessons that we're going to begin the year with, to ensure that we cover those standards for those to be mastered, so that we can continue building that strong foundation, so that we can move forward with the first grade standards, to ensure that the students are being successful throughout the year.
That's great, Mrs. Weinock. And just to let folks know just quickly, because I think Mrs. Weinock touched on that, we do have a plan, I guess for lack of a better term, we're calling it an accelerated learning plan, along with the state releasing some tailored standards. So we're not just going to start in the middle of kindergarten and end the year in the middle of first grade. We will get our kids caught up. That's the plan. We're going to be working on it over the summer. So I just want to touch on that. So turn it over to Mrs. Lakey and Mrs. Adams to talk a little bit about our team approach.
So like Mrs. Weinock was saying and Mr. Thompson was saying, we do have a team approach at our school. I think the most important thing that we can tell you about our school is that we meet kids where kids are at. They're always in the right spot for them. I get that question a lot. Is my kid behind? Is my kid ahead? All I can say is that the kids are in the right spot for where they are. And there's a range of development that's typical and expected. And it's our job to know where to meet those kids and to see their strengths. We do meet regularly as a team to discuss students. We look at their progress over time, and this is a continuous process. We don't just look at them once, we look at them all year. And we provide a range of teaching methods and services for all children. Also, you should know that we give kids what they need to learn and to thrive in our school. Mrs. Lakey?
Yep. So we do work together, as Mrs. Adams has said, and as Mr. Thompson has said. We have a smaller first grade team of 10, which does include our classroom teachers, our special education teacher, our reading specialist, our support staff, and also myself, the coach. We do work together to meet regularly, as Mrs. Adams said, but we also do have a larger school-wide team, which includes but is not limited to our administration, our speech pathologists, occupational therapists, a lot of the different people that Mr. Thompson mentioned at the beginning. And it also includes you, the family and the parents. We have touched on this already, but we truly believe that you are an expert on your child and you know them the best. So we believe a partnership with you is what is going to help to teach the whole child. So just in conclusion with that, we value every member of the team, their unique perspective and their knowledge of a child, so that we can come together, collaborate, and teach the whole child to be successful.
That's great. Thank you, Mrs. Lakey, Mrs. Adams, Mrs. Weinock. And I guess just closing out this slide, the reason why I think this piece was important to talk about is because your kids may see other teachers. They're going to see other adults. One of the things I'm proudest of is the way our first grade team works together. And we don't wait. If we see a kid having a problem or they're struggling, which almost every single kid is going to have a struggle somewhere along the way, whether it's social, emotional, with math, with literacy. And our team is looking at data, looking at those kids that are struggling, talking about it and collaborating. And if we have a teacher in another room or there's another adult that has a skill set that could help a kid with a certain issue, then we're tapping into that resource. So it's served us really well over the years, and I just think it's an important piece for you as a parent to be aware of. So for our next slide, we're going to start talking a little bit about summer. So I'm going to ask Mrs. Dana Tronier to join us and Mrs. Melinda Madigan. I'm going to turn it right over to Dana when she joins us. And she's going to talk a little bit about trying to continue some of our learning into the summer, and Mrs. Madigan's going to talk about summer reading. So,
So thank you, Mr. Thompson. It's great to be here, and I just want to welcome everyone to our HBB family. It truly is a family. I'm proud to work at the HBB. I'm proud to have my children go to the HBB, and I'm very proud of the team that I work with, the entire team from the first grade level all the way up to our administration. So it's great to be here. For the summer, our team would just love to ask that you continue to build the love for reading. Continue to read to your child as much as possible. Have your child read to you, and just continue those conversations that are so enjoyable. Again, we just want you to continue building the love for reading. And one of the ways that you can do that is through our summer program, which Mrs. Madigan is going to talk more about. Mrs. Madigan?
Thank you, Mrs. Trottier. So as Mrs. Trottier said, reading to your child or reading with your child over the summer is a sure way to start strong at HBB. This year, we are so excited to partner with the Middleborough Public Library and support the Summer Reader Program. We ask all of our students to participate in Imagine Your Story. This program allows for student choice in what they read, for choice in activities that they want to do, and for choice on how much they read, and we are hoping that they read a lot. What is exciting about this is there is a program for children, a program for teens, and a program for adults, so the whole family can participate together, which is always exciting. You can register starting June 20th. Registration is through the public library, and you can do that online by reaching out to them at midlib.org, which is midlib.org, or calling them at 508-946-2470 to register. It is a virtual program, which means it can be all done online through the Beanstack app. The whole family can have one registration, one account. But if internet access is a challenge, or you want to take a break from screens, there is a hard copy packet available on the Henry Berkman website. You can find it under the Student and Families tab, and you just scroll down to Summer Reading, and you can access all of the information there for how to chart your minutes and where to submit it and everything else. And as you'll see from registering that there are prizes available, which is always enticing for the kids, and based on activities that they've completed and minutes read, as well as a drawing for 5 different grand prizes that support local businesses in town. So that's always a great thing. So we hope that you enjoy your summer, and happy reading.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Madigan and Mrs. Trottier. So I just want to let parents know that are watching that you can, if you have any questions, we will be taking those. I'm going to go through a few slides somewhat quickly related to logistics. But if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat feature on the side if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, and I'll answer some of those questions as we get to the end. So I just want parents to be aware that we will be sending a summer mailing at some point. And there's a few things I just want to make sure that I really highlight. The first is we send home this form, which is a printout from Aspen, which it'll have any information that we already have on there from your child being in kindergarten, but oftentimes emails and contact information might get overlooked. So this is where we would like you or ask you to update any information. If you got a new cell phone, you had a new email address, things like that. That's really important because we do send out text message alerts. We send out phone call alerts, and we email people directly. So once your child is in HBB, if you're not getting weekly emails from me, just please reach out. It's probably because we didn't get your information, or maybe we couldn't read what you wrote. So I'm going to skip this slide because I'm not sure what the first day of school is going to look like. But I will, again, in the summer mailing, one of the things you're going to get is a lanyard. This is an example of a lanyard that would be in Mrs. Trottier's class. We ask kids to wear those lanyards every day. And we probably have that go on for about the first 6 days of school total, and we will take them back. The reason we ask kids to wear lanyards is because our first graders are new to the school. They, especially this group, are not going to necessarily know where they're going. And we will have a whole ton of staff that are outside, whether it's parent pickup or the buses. We're going to be out there looking for kids. I mean, if they forgot their lanyard, it's okay. We're still going to be looking for them and helping them get where they need to go. But this is really helpful when kids have this, because we know exactly what room they need to go to. And it's not uncommon for us to ask a first grader their last name and they don't know it because they're so nervous. They probably do know it, but they just can't answer it in the moment. So these lanyards are super helpful in the beginning of the year. Our drop off at HBB is at 8:40. And it takes place in the front of the building. So you see a little video here. We have a line of traffic. I'm out there almost every morning with a few staff. We ask you not to let your kids out of the car until I come up and signal you, and we'll let kids out, and they'll walk along the front. There's some kind of unwritten rules out here that you'll learn as you begin to drop your kids off. If you are coming into the building, as you can see this parent here, you would pull in the parking lot. You don't get in the line of traffic, but by and large, you get in the line of traffic and you just stay in that line until you pull out. We really don't want people dropping their kids off and then pulling out and trying to drive around cars. So that's really important. Again, it's something that we'll go over when the school year starts, and you'll see me outside directing traffic, but just want you to know that drop off is in the front, because in the morning, the buses come in to the back. In the afternoon, that's reversed. So if you're picking your kids up, you're coming to the back of the building. That's what you see in the video here. So this is pulling in from the Route 28 side. And when you pull in, you're going to pull around our gymnasium, as you can see in this video here. And we have it looks a little different than this video is a few years old. But you'll pull around and you will end up seeing the outside of our auditorium. That's where we gather kids who are getting picked up by parents. So you'll see parents parking out there and getting in line. We ask that you show an ID to pick your child up and let them know that who you're there to pick up. We will set how every kid is going home every day at the beginning of the year. So if they're typically bus 7 every day, we have a list. If they are going to do anything other than that, they require a note every day. So we ask the parents not send us a note and say, I'm picking my child up on Monday and on Friday. If you're picking up on Monday, we'd like a note on Monday. If you're picking them up on Tuesday, we'd like a note on Tuesday. We have a lot of kids. We have a really good system of making sure everybody gets to where they need to get to, but part of that is notes. So we follow how a kid is supposed to get home every day unless we receive that note. So that's really important. When your child's absent from school, just like MEC, we have a safe to school number. We ask you to call first thing in the morning. If you forgot, it's not the end of the world, but you're going to get an automated phone call. And when you're dismissing your child, obviously we talked about sending in a note, but we also ask that you not pick your child up after 2:45 in the office. If it's after 2:45, we're going to ask you to go out back to pick up your child, because it gets really busy and hectic in the office, and we don't want to lose kids because we have too many parents or it's getting confusing in the main office. So that's a pretty important rule at HBB. Couple other quick notes. I mentioned Meg Quirk. Some of you may know her. She does a lot of work over at the Early Childhood Center, but Meg is the director of our Family Resource Center. It's a wonderful resource, open to all families. She's really there for almost anything you can think of. And if you're curious, check out her website. You can get there through the district website, or including the link below. She's a great support to a lot of families. I want to encourage parents, if there's no shame in free and reduced lunch. I was a free and reduced lunch kid, and back when I was a kid, I had to stand up in front of the class along with 3 other kids and go get my blue ticket every day. We don't do that anymore. Every single kid has a pin in the building, and no one knows whether they're free or reduced lunch. So I just mentioned that because I think we have often had a number of families that qualify. They may not have known they qualified, or they were afraid that their kid was going to be embarrassed. So we have those applications in the office. Just give us a call. I also want to make note that we have a number of classes that are allergy aware classes. If your child is in a class with a student who has a life-threatening allergy in any way, shape, or form, you'll be getting direct communication from myself, from the nurse, from our assistant principal, and we ask that you please cooperate with any requests. We have kids every year that have a variety of health issues, and my number one priority is to make sure those kids are safe. I'm not trying to punish kids. I know I've gotten questions every year about, I'm trying to say they can't have peanut butter crackers and things like that. It's not that. It's that we have kids that have life-threatening allergies. If your kid brought in a snack that is not something that's allowed in the classroom, we don't punish them. We'll give them another place to eat, but we wouldn't allow them to eat it in the class. And in the lunchroom, we also have allergy-aware tables that only kids that eat hot lunch are allowed to eat at. Teachers manage all that. So basically, if a student has an allergy, they have a friend or two that will eat with them that we know are ordering hot lunch, but we also work to keep the other kids away from those tables. So we go over all of this with the kids, we address it, but I will be sending home communication as well. And I just ask families to cooperate in this regard, because this is really important. This is very serious, especially if you are a parent who has a child who has allergies. This is very important. So there'll be more information coming on that. We welcome volunteers. We love people to get involved. There's a variety of ways to do that. We have volunteers in the classroom. We have people that come in the office, help make copies. And then obviously the PTA, we are blessed with an amazing PTA that just year in and year out does some amazing fundraising for us. And just to know our PTA pays for almost all of our enrichment. They pay for our Husky Haven, the tickets we give out kids. They even helped us fund the Family Resource Center when we originally got that started. So we have an amazing partnership with our PTA, and I definitely would encourage anyone that's interested in getting involved in that. But if you're interested in volunteering and the PTA is not your thing, just reach out to us, reach out to the classroom teacher. We'll get a Corey on file, and you'll be able to come in. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen now and see if we have any questions. Hopefully this works. All right, so I've been sharing my screen, so I've not been able to see live whether we have any questions, and it's not looking like we do have any questions. So this is going to be recorded. It's going to be put up on our website. So I see my first question here. If I have a Corey on file with MEC, do I need another one for HBB? Most likely not. They're good for a couple years. We do have a list. So if you just give us a call in the office, we can take a look at that list and let you know whether your Corey is active. Pickup time and drop off is another question that's popped up. So drop off in the morning is at 8:40. We don't open the doors until then. We'll come outside and then we ask cars to start unloading. We ask that parents please don't drop your kids off earlier than that. It does get confusing because we have walkers and they'll show up and be out front a couple minutes early. And I think some parents sometimes think then it's okay to just drop their kids off. But we don't have staff outside supervising kids until 8:40. So just so you're aware of that. And then the school day ends at 3:20. So our pickup starts at about 3:10. So most parents start arriving out back at about 3:05. We start pickup just a little bit early because we want to make sure that we have all kids accounted for before we let the buses roll. I don't want any kids getting up on a bus accidentally when they were supposed to be out for pickup or something like that. So about 3:10. So will the kids be able to see the school before they actually attend? I certainly hope so. I don't know the answer to that question. We anticipate getting some updated guidance from the Commissioner of Education within the next couple weeks. It's not clear to me how detailed that guidance will be. So I believe we'll then end up needing to take that guidance and figuring out what that means for Middleborough, just even for the first day of school. I am hopeful, and I'm not saying this is definitely going to happen, but I'm hopeful that two things are going to be able to happen in August, that we will be able to do something to have some sense of closure for our kids. I know our teachers want it, our families want it, and our kids want it. and that we will be able to do something for our kids that are new to the school, to be able to do some walkthroughs and some tours of the school. So please just, as soon as the year ends and we have all of the parent emails in, all the kids are rolled up into HBB in our student database, I will be able to regularly email you directly. So as we go through the summer, I will be sending out emails and updates. If there's a lot to cover, I may do another one of these virtual orientations to update everybody as to what's going on. And hopefully we can do one face-to-face. There's a lot of ideas flowing around right now. I'm not sure exactly what we're going to be able to do and not be able to do, but we're pretty committed to trying to find a way for kids to be able to come into the building before the year starts and to have a sense of closure in some capacity. So again, I'm not really sure what that's going to look like. Just stay tuned. And if you're not getting any emails and you find out that maybe I did send one over the summer, I just ask that you reach out. Again, we might have the email address wrong. And please, if you could just spread the word. I know not every parent is on this call tonight too. So the Parents of HBB Facebook page is also pretty active. And I know a lot of parents get on there just to ask quick questions, and parents that have been around for a long time jump in and answer the question before anyone at HBB would be able to as well. So, so I'm not seeing any other questions pop up. If that's all we have for tonight, I just wanted to thank all of my teachers that participated tonight and thank everybody that came out to watch. And then obviously thank Mr. Siciliano, who's sitting backstage, I guess we call it, virtual backstage, just making this whole thing happen and helping us out with everything. So we're really looking forward to getting to meet you all face to face and getting the kids back and getting back to some semblance of normal soon. And just pay attention for future communications. As soon as we know more about what the year is going to look like, we will be in touch and communicating that out to everybody. So I'm not seeing any other questions, so unless I miss them. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.